Welcome to the official YouTube channel for the Colin Cowherd podcast. Go on, hit the subscribe button. There it is, so you don't miss any of our football content this season. It has been, if I might say, fantastic. So now I want to go, and we don't have to spend as much time on these two games because I want to talk a lot of college football playoff. Pittsburgh beats Cleveland 27-14. Russell Wilson 6-1 as a starter. Good on for third down. Now, they didn't have Pickens today, who, I don't know what they said, hamstring, but George Pickens wasn't around. And there were real limitations. Like, this is one of these, you know how like A.J. Brown leads Jalen as much as Jalen leads A.J. Brown. Like, A.J. Brown's got this weird stat. He's like the most instrumental wide receiver in the league. Like, the team's different. Boy, George Pickens with Russ is dangerous. Without him today, I mean, they didn't do much. But again, this is the first time in years they don't make a lot of mistakes. They get to the line. They're pretty good on third down. I think Pittsburgh's going to have a hard time in a division with Burrow. You don't want to start over again. You got Burrow, Lamar Jackson. Hell, Jameis Winston's productive. I don't know what Pittsburgh does. They have to sign him, don't they?
I thought Russell had two of his better throws this season on a couple touchdown passes in the red zone today. You know, just
tight end
balls, getting the ball out of his hand. He had a Freiermuth on the one, on another one, getting it kind of under a defensive back. I thought today was a really big moment for Russell because, like you said, I mean, George Pickett, it was kind of like Malone and Stockton, and that was his guy. And then you remove him. And early on, you know, the Browns clearly are going to play very well against these teams in the division. They're very confident at home or on the road. They're going to have the worst record in the league that every team has to take very seriously down the stretch if you're trying to make the playoffs.
Listen, they missed field goals today. They could have
field goal kickers in shambles right now.
Okay, they had a chance. This could have been a final drive of the game contest. I mean, there's no question. Cleveland was in this thing. Jameis, you know, so that's my take. Russell didn't play particularly well. They missed their star, but they beat a division rival, and he just doesn't make a lot of mistakes.
Yeah, to me, if he's not turning the ball over and can be productive for you in the red zone, their defense, this franchise, how they are able to find these defensive linemen. They had 95 today, had an interception on a screen pass from Jameis. They have like 3 or 4 pass rushers outside of TJ Watt. Cam Hayward's been in the league, it feels like, for 20 years, still making plays. I mean, their franchise, I was wrong. I thought it was time for a divorce and just time, like Andy Reid, Philly, it was time.
That's what I thought.
And listen, and I also thought this. I thought going from Justin Fields to Russell Wilson was going to be an epic mistake. And he
in the locker room,
he has been such a major upgrade. And I've seen some clips like Justin Fields still in it. Maybe sometimes every human being fails at different times. Some are more public than others. Maybe it was healthy for Russell. Maybe it's just kind of changed him a little bit because he has, it feels like, ingratiated himself with a group and a city and a franchise. It's not easy to do. I mean, that's not exactly diva. You know, it's blue collar working man team, and he feels kind of one of them. I mean, I take him pretty serious. I was impressed today because I thought Cleveland early on was coming to play. Jameis was making some plays. I'm like, Cleveland's confident against Pittsburgh. They just beat him a couple weeks ago. You're like, this would be a bad loss. And they kind of hit the Jets, and all of a sudden they were up a couple touchdowns and never looked back.
Okay, Seattle 30, Arizona 18. Seattle's now 8-5. They sweep Arizona, really dominate the game, ran the ball effectively. Kyler Murray had a couple ugly picks early in the game. You know, it's really interesting when I watch Geno again. You know, 24 of, I think, 30. It was just, again, kind of stoic, sits in the pocket, makes the throws. I love Seattle's skill talent. I think they have 2 backs I like. Smith and Jigba. Lockett's still banging around this league, which is crazy. He was a gadget guy, and now it's a 10-plus career. I look at Seattle. They're going to make the playoffs now. It looks, I mean, they're 8-5. They have a 62% chance to make the playoffs. I got to tell you, this, as Pete Carroll hangs around the USC Inferno right now, I know deep down Pete Carroll we'd take that job in 2 minutes, is I think you and I put Geno below Baker and Sam Darnold. Maybe you don't, but I don't think he's –
I do.
Yeah, so do I. This roster I mean, they are missing a quarterback. Now, I thought they should have gone after Penix last year. I Parts of me think I don't know what to do with Seattle. But I'm sitting there watching it today. This is Arizona's biggest game of the year. They just got hammered by Seattle. Shit, Seattle took total control of the game in the first half. Felt like they sealed it early with picks. I think this coach is good. I think the roster's fairly. I think we don't know a lot of their players, but you go watch the way they came back and won against the Jets. You watch the way they went to Arizona. Young teams tend to be more emotional, John, and Seattle's young in spots, but these young teams don't know what they don't know. I think Seattle's better than I thought. And before the season, I said, give me a team. Denver was my team. No, Washington was my team I thought was going to be better than everybody thought. And I said, give me a team that we're going to look up in week 15 and go, damn. And yours was Seattle. Mine was Washington with the Commanders. They had all new people. And I said, good. All the other people were awful. They've upgraded at everything, owner down. Would Seattle, if the Rams and Seattle played in the playoff, we would take Stafford and McVay, right?
Depends where the game was. I think you're understating the coach as being good. I think he's awesome. I mean, look at Baltimore since he's left. Their defense last year was historic, and they've fallen apart. Same players.
They're awful now.
And you watch Seattle as they've gotten guys back. They are much better on defense. This was my favorite bet of the weekend. Was them 2.5 on the road. One, they've just played well in Arizona for a long time. And two, you could tell this Arizona team had been leaking oil. Now, Kyler parlays his 2 picks down the stretch in the last game, right back in the first quarter, throws 2 awful picks, and it unraveled on him fast. And once it's 24-10, it's like, you can tell with Arizona. When they're vibing and they show up, you're like, okay, this is going to be a game. When they get a little off kilter, listen, he is a freak talent. Like, I don't think we'll ever see another 5'9" guy drafted number 1 overall again. Now, granted, Bryce went too, and Bryce has looked a lot better. But Kyler is truly, his version of like Bo Jackson or Deion Sanders, just physical talent. It's all-time great. But his body language when he plays bad early, he kind of can go in the tank.
Yes.
And your quarterback, we talked about Buffalo early. They're getting their ass kicked, and Josh keeps his head up and keeps swinging. Kyler just kind of gets mopey. And that was the knock on him, and it felt like he had matured a little bit. And it's like he kind of went back in the tank today. And that's, you saw Seattle, that's the thing they got with Geno, is like he can not play well. And it feels like for the most part, his body language is pretty solid, even when he's getting his ass kicked.
He feels terrible. When Geno makes a mistake, nobody feels worse than Geno. He's got a good heart. He's got leadership qualities. You can tell his teammates in the sideline love him. Geno Smith has limitations, but it's not leadership. It's not work ethic. It's not attitude. Geno Smith busts his ass every week. He really appreciates this opportunity.
The one thing with Seattle, Colin, is their schedule. These next 2 weeks, they are Packers, Vikings. Now, they're both in Seattle, but that's going to be tough. You're getting the Packers, who I would say are going to come into this. I mean, this is a big game for them. They've got to lick their wounds after that Lions game, right? Because now they're 9-4. They feel destined for a wild card spot. That's a big moment for them. In Minnesota, I don't know how they do it, but they feel like they're going to end up winning 14 games. Then they play the Bears, and then they play the Rams. Now, if the Rams beat the Niners this week, that game, week 18, could be the Sunday night winner get in for the division, right? 2 9-win teams. Whoever wins gets 10 and wins the division. The other team might be on the outside looking in, not even get a wild card spot. So I think if Seattle wins one of these next 2 games, they're going to win the division. If they lose both of them and the Rams beat the 49ers, I think we got, a division on our hands. I take Seattle pretty seriously. I think their coaching staff, head coach is a stud. Ryan Grubb clearly is really good. The dude they took from DeBoer, who had never coached in the pros. And Geno hasn't really, he's looked exactly like he has the last couple of years. If not, even he's been a little more consistent. What can they do this year? Is like they're a little more hammer the run. I mean, today Charbonnet, because our backup running back had 125 plus yards. And like you said, if they get Walker, to me, if they're going to be taken seriously, like in a playoff game and win this division, that his injuries have been a little bit of a problem. If they can keep him healthy, their offensive skill guy minus the quarterback is as good as any. Like it's like Eagles level. right? With their wide receivers, the tight end, multiple
Yeah.
running backs.
Yep. Walker runs so hard. He's the kid that led college football at Michigan State, yards after contact. He runs
Oh,
so
stud.
hard, he hurts himself. He's
Yeah.
got a little bit of that James Conner in Arizona. He runs violently, so he's banged up a lot.